All right, welcome back. So today we're going to go over some techniques for AI and upsell. We're going to give you some very interesting tips about what you can kind of action straight away in terms of new ways of thinking around your upsell and your other strategy. And also at the end of the video, we're going to give you an extra bonus, so you'll see that, and we'll go over that at the end of the video. So my name's Scott from HubSpot, and I also have James here.
Hey everyone, I'm also one of the co-founders of HubSpot.
So, our focus is to bring in new AI technology, not just into HubSpot, but also into, CRM technologies in general. So this is going to be a very exciting video. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All righty. So we're really going to get into the tricks. So first, what is our objective? Our objective is the scientific of sustainable revenue growth, that it's kind of replicatable, repeatable. So in terms of AI, it's about how to optimize your KPIs. It's an objection function of optimizing your KPIs. So as per usual, we go through this process. Business model, the GTM strategy or go-to-market strategy, growth model, data model, mass model. So all these make up the revenue component. So today we're really going to be focusing on using the models that we have here, but in terms of the upsell capabilities. So first of all, let's talk about the upsell. So we have our standard pipeline going from, your classifications might be different, but our awareness to expansion going through your marketing, sales, and customer success team. So in our traditional model, we normally talk about getting someone on board being a large expense, but getting someone to upsell is generally exponential expense. And to do that, we need to understand when to upsell. So here we have a diagram where we're talking about an event trigger. So an event trigger is something that exists, it's quantifiable, it's numbers, it's an action that can be measured and be able to activate an upsell. So James, I think you got some good examples of that.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, a common one that I can think of would be how HubSpot does their upsells. So HubSpot do their upsells based on prompts from when people try to use different features in the system that they don't have in their current package. So for example, if somebody's got established in their HubSpot and they start looking at the workflows tool because they want to start automating certain processes within their organization, then they're going to try and access the workflows tool, and it's going to come up with a padlock saying that that's not within their package. When that happens, that is recording against that person's record on HubSpot's own CRM that they have expressed an interest in that tool, in the sense that they've tried to access that tool, and that is basically becomes the event trigger for whoever the assigned account manager is for that HubSpot client to reach out to that person and be like, hey, I noticed you were looking at the workflows tool. What were you trying to do with it? And trying to start a conversation with them about what their intentions are and see if they can use that to drive them to go onto a pro package and to have that automation tool available to them.
Yeah, and that's definitely a number-based system. It's very metrified system, and it's definitely an effective system, but it does require knowledge of the customer to know that they're going to want workflows or want something. So generally what's kind of missed at this stage is understanding the customer problem again. So in the traditional cycle, we knew about the customer problem in the education stage and going through this process, but quite often this is actually lost in the customer success stage. So there's a reason for it, is because previously analyzing unstructured data has been very complicated. So let's talk about the types of triggers that could be used for upsell. First is the structured data and usage data. So James gave a great example of how HubSpot was using that. Unstructured text to structured classification. So this is about just looking at emails or LinkedIn profiles or Facebook profiles and using information that is being discussed and putting it into a classification to understand the person. So for example, if you had like financial software or something like that, and there's certain criterias, you can classify, is this a big or small company, or do they have superannuation needs, or whatever it is, by looking at the data and then classifying it. The next trigger we're going to talk about is unstructured text to complex structured data. So what I mean by this is that often a customer problem may be multiple faceted. So it doesn't necessarily exist in one category. It could exist in multiple categories. So having a complex structure represented through JSON is a way that we can use as a trigger for a upsell and knowing more about the information. And the last one is using fuzzy logic, so more ambiguous triggers where you're asking artificial intelligence or something to make a decision, is this person right for a situation? So how this has become possible. So this has been a big shift in the market. Your customers are not static. So this is something that we've viewed in many CRMs as a customer comes in, they're using your system, they become a static piece of data. We understand the industry, we understand their company size, maybe their revenue, but they become static. So using intelligent agents, which is definitely something that's becoming more accessible, is that we can take information from outside and start aggregating it. We're making a customer become alive. Like we can follow them on LinkedIn, we can follow them on different data sources. So here I got a few RSS new feeds. So if I work for a specific company, I can start looking at the company information. Sorry about that. We can look at reviews or people's posts about a company or about the customer. We can use tools like SpyFood to start looking at how the customer is advertising, so understand their environment and what kind of problems they're trying to solve. And we can look at things like changing roles or new investments within the environment. So this is just a sample of the data source, but there's a lot. There's a lot of data sources which can apply here. So let's look at how we can structure this as a way of upselling. So here we talk about different sources. We talk first about the customer behavior. Customer behavior, we're actually talking about the person. So what is the person talking about? What are they talking about on their social media? What are they writing, posting, commenting on to see how they're behaving? And are they writing about issues? Are they writing about their company? Are they writing about their growth? What is that information? All this is extremely valuable information that's going to tell you about the customer, the change in the customer, not just the static customer that first bought your product, but the customer as they are today, not how they were back in the past. The other thing is to look at their network. So what I mean about network is not just looking at a customer, but looking at their co-workers, looking at other influencers in their company, look at people in their network that they're following, to look at trends in the market, influencers in the market, and how that's affecting the customer. And the last one is looking at the market and the competitors. So things like the competitor is moving this way, there's new competitors, they're using different technology, they're shifting their paradigm. So all this information can be aggregated, and it's all unstructured information, press release, post, emails, and then it's restructured. So in this case, we use something like AI, ChatGPT, TensorFlow, to take that unstructured information to structured information, which then can be fed into HubSpot, which then can be fed into your CS, into your data team to see if it's meeting a trigger, if it's creating an alert or an email to start that whole upsell process. So let's get into a live demo here. I'm just going to give you a few demos about how you can actually do this yourself. Just going to change my screen. Presenting. Let me choose. How's that, James? Can you see my screen?
Yep, I see ChatGPT.
So let's take an example here, and these have already been pre-written, so we can get through this video pretty quickly. So let's say you are selling HCM software. Your main focus is going to be these 3 topics. So we have these 3 topics. So I'm going to say, from the following post, is the content about hiring, retention, or succession planning? So let's say we have a customer and they're discussing on LinkedIn, my favorite tool here, LinkedIn friends, anyone having issues finding, keeping hold of your staff, ours keep leaving. So let's see what it says. So we can see that ChatGPT has already identified this as a topic of retention. So in this case, where we might want to say, okay, they've been using our system, they've been onboarding, but now this person is talking about this specific topic, which is a feature that we sell in our software. So now we can start approaching this person. So let's say we want to decide the importance of it. So let's go ahead. List the topics out, 1-on-1, give a score out of 5. So let's see the importance. So retention, 5 out of 5. Okay. Hiring, 3 out of 5. Succession planning, 1 out of 5. So here we have an aggregate problem. So we're talking about different features, the functionality or the mechanism of your tool, but we're talking about an overall, the need to solve the customer problem. So we have the retention. Clearly, that's kind of the issue that they've decided is the biggest one. Hiring is the next one. So this can now be classified. So you can start classifying and weighting the information about how the customer is potentially interacting. So let's move on. I have a few more examples here. So our next example is, given your human capital management application, what is the customer problem in 1 line from this email? So it doesn't need to be email. It can be any data source. So we have something a bit rude here. Customer, I'm having issues with my staff. They cannot do their jobs. They are stupid. So that one's pretty clear. So their performance and competency. So it's identified this. We're going to GPT-3, so hopefully this won't affect the outcome here. So we're going to do the same here, but we're going to give it something a little bit more complicated. Is there any way to help improve my staff using your tool? I feel the employees are stupid. So let's say that was something coming to the customer success team. Your customer is seeking solutions to improve employee performance and skill. So the idea is that now we're converting, this could be a very large email, very large body of text, but now we're trying to identify the customer problems in a condensed way to be able to solve their problems and then trigger the actions around it. So this is a very interesting example. So here we're going to the next level. So if you want to use the data, you need to be able to put it in a format that the computer can understand. So here we can put this as single items and extract those, or we can start using something which is called JSON. So here, create a JSON schema about human capital management system, list the areas, an example of customer problems. So here, we're creating a file. We won't run all these, but here we're starting to create a structure that is a schema. So it means as we read information from either one email or one LinkedIn post, we can start classifying information over time about a customer. And then we can start rating these information. So you can see that we got onboarding, we got performance management. What do we have here? Recruitment. So we have all these different topics that a HCM software would solve. So in the following text, create a JSON using the following schema. Hopefully the results are good because this is not 4. We've gone to 3. So excellent, great. So we can see here that I provided a small example. I am looking at a better way of hiring my staff. It is taking me months to find people, and when I hire them, they seem to lack the skill. So here it's saying, wow, okay, there's 2 major problems that we've identified using the schema. So the schema is reflecting your business, your company structure, the problems that you handle. And now we're interpreting your business needs into a way that's very structured. So it doesn't even, you don't even need a human to read the information. The ChatGPT can extract that information out, and then it will then classify the information. So here we just use a low, medium, high. So here it's saying, hey, look, this customer, I've either read it from LinkedIn, I've read it from a news source, I've read it from an email. We've started to gather this information and we extracted their needs. So by the time it gets to either a salesperson or whoever's going to be doing the on-sell, now they have all this information. They have the frustration, they have the customer problem, and they have the importance for it. So this is extremely powerful, but because this is now structured data, it can be used by HubSpot. So unstructured data is not so useful for HubSpot, but once it's structured, we can now use that information to make decisions and to be able to perform actions. So I think that's the first few tips. What's the next one, James, on my list here? So that was the examples I showed was ChatGPT using LinkedIn posts and extracting topics, using emails to customer problems, how we can use the emails to JSON schemas to upload to HubSpot. James is going to take over in a second, and I'm going to show one more example, which is the TensorFlow example. So ChatGPT is a great tool, but TensorFlow is also the basis of most artificial intelligence here. And I'm just going to show this example here. I'm not going to go into it much more, but straight out of the box, TensorFlow has a series of libraries which can perform text classification and things like that. So here we can get the sentiments, we can get the classifications. Either we can do that using ChatGPT, or if you really needed structured, very specific models, you can use something like TensorFlow. And the examples straight off the TensorFlow website is sentiment analysis. So it's pulling out not only the classification, but the sentiment, aggressive, frustration, all those kind of emotional aspects as well are pulled out in here. So, there's different ways of doing it. So ChatGPT, Gemini, TensorFlow, they're all different strategies to achieve the same result. So moving on, I'm going to hand it to James to show you how taking that information from the JSON and the classified information, and potentially how HubSpot can use that unstructured information that's learned by the system in a structured way.
All right. So yeah, in this example here, I'm specifically taking like the behavioral data, but this same concept could be applied to network or competitor-based data that's flowing into HubSpot as JSON. So you're seeing this workflow that, in this case, I've got behavioral data going through, and then that's a re-enrollment. So every time behavioral data is updated into HubSpot under that person, then it's going to rerun this workflow. So the idea is that this will be the JSON being pushed into HubSpot that has all of the information that's been interpreted in terms of what kind of intents we're getting from the different information that's being analyzed. So for example, if we're seeing people's LinkedIn posts and the kind of communications they're having on LinkedIn, that they are expressing interests in certain topics that are relevant to the features and benefits of our product, then we can pick that out in the ChatGPT or TensorFlow is going to pick that out, and it's going to highlight that in the scores within the JSON that then gets pushed into HubSpot. Excuse me. Then what's going to happen is some custom code is going to interpret that JSON data, and it's going to decide whether the trigger point has been reached based on one of those different features. So keeping with the same topic, we've got the features of hiring, retention, and succession planning. So if there is a particularly good score in the area of hiring as a result of reviewing all that aggregated data and scoring it, then we're going to take someone down the path of saying some marketing content about the hiring features of the software, adding them to an ad retargeting group as well, specifically with ads around that feature set, and then also triggering a notification to the assigned internal rep to let them know that that hiring intent trigger has been reached, so they can then take further action on that. And then the same thing for those other different feature sets. If none of those trigger points have been reached, then the custom code will send them down the none path. But as Scott mentioned, this is going to be continuously updating. I know we've got before with things like data enrichment tools where you're getting some basic data into HubSpot around updates to maybe when people are getting funding and things like that. But with this, we're able to take live behavioral data, and every time we have more data to work with, we can get ChatGPT to score it and then use that data within HubSpot to choose what marketing channels we send people down.
Right. It's exciting because that JSON file, like it creates those examples, it creates the scoring, but then it can add to those examples for every message and update that scoring. So something that was a medium, as we witness more information, it might go, well, it's not medium anymore. This customer it's gone to a high priority because we're exposing it to more and more information over a period of time.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So just go back. There we go. So to summarize, this is how this will sort of work within the overall flow. So we could have three different sources here of data. So data about me as an individual and what kind of behaviors I'm exerting that relate to the product that's being sold. It could be data around the overall network around me of what other people are talking about in my network, people that I'm connected to, people that I'm seeing talk about topics that are relevant to me, or that I could also influence them on, that are pain points related to our product, and then also what our competitors are doing, and how they're leveraging things that our product does, that we could also be leveraging if we also bought this particular product. Those could all be then, all of that raw data can then be analyzed within ChatGPT. That can then be pushed through in a structured format into fields in HubSpot. That could be like a one field which is behavioral data, one field that is network behavioral data, one field that is market competitor intelligence data. So 3 different sets of JSON, and those in turn could then trigger one workflow that interprets all that data, or potentially it could be 3 different workflows that focus on those specific sets of data to see when people are reaching from a low to a medium to a high score for one of those different areas of intent, either as an individual or in terms of the third parties around them. And then when those triggers are met, we can then use all the tools available within HubSpot to us to target that person, as well as looping our sales team or our customer success team in to push that case.
Yeah, I think it's super interesting. Like, going beyond the customer, I really like the idea of the network. Saying James is the CTO of the company, and his sales guy is complaining or writing information about the company. Now we're able to access information beyond that standard network. So, maybe the need is not James, but it's his associate. So we already have that trigger point to get to his salesperson through James as already someone part of his network, or an influencer, for example. So that's kind of very interesting. And the same with the competitors. If you're seeing something happening with the competitors that's might influence your customer, now you can act on it quickly. You can say, hey, your customer is doing this, your customer is proactively changing. So, hey, you need to be ready, or you need to move up the package line, or you need to get this new feature to stay competitive, because that's what your competitors are doing, or your competitors are heading a certain way. Are you ready for that kind of action? So I don't know. I'm sure you've seen it a lot, right, James, in with a lot of these, with the customers you're dealing with.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, the it's been done in such a basic way up until now. Like before, we've been totally dependent on things like lead scoring just based on explicit data that we have within the CRM, like people opening and clicking on emails, or people going on pages of your website. And yes, that data is useful when it has its part to play, and it could and it can show that there is a direct interest. But this is just broadening that scope so much. The fact that you can now go into all these other sources, you can go where your customer is rather than relying on data about where they come to you, and just using that broader data to have a better understanding of them and to target them more effectively.
Yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I hope that was useful to everyone. Going back to Scott's point about our bonus, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a RevOps AI workshop that we've launched recently. So this is a package that basically enables you to use effectively some of the different concepts that we've been talking about within this series. So it will be basically a full end-to-end workshop where we look at your entire flow, your entire cycle, from the awareness stage all the way up to the expansion stage, what you're doing and what you could be doing better. Looking at different quick wins, building out a roadmap for how you can use different kinds of functionality and different strategies and different tools like we've been describing in this series to enhance different areas of your process and basically help you to achieve your various different RevOps goals. So that's something that we've recently launched, and if that's something that you'd be interested in getting engaged with, then feel free to reach out to us.
The link will be in the description.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for your time, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
Yes, thank you. And if you found this information useful and you're interested in the AI technology, like and subscribe us to see up and coming content. So thank you and see you in the next one.
Take care. Bye, everyone.